Okay, Jen, are you ready in the front? Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Well, good morning. Today is Wednesday, January 8th, 2025, and we'd like to welcome everyone to the board meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 9 o'clock a.m. The teleconference number is 1-971-254-3149. Conference ID 866-914-607#. Audio capabilities are listen only and are offered on a best effort for the public. Our meeting is also live streamed, and you can join us online by going to our website. Live stream is also available at tctvonline.com and click on live broadcasts. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute their phone. You can do this by pressing *6. Please unmute your phone when your agenda item is ready to be discussed. For those joining via computer, please unmute your microphone and turn on your camera when your agenda item is called. All others must remain muted with their cameras turned off. Thank you. Public comment. Those intending to provide public comment to the board may attend in person or email submissions to the public comments email on our website. Public comments received by 12 p.m. on Tuesday will be distributed to the board, posted online before the meeting, and become part of the public record. You may also provide public comment virtually by registering ahead of time. To register, please email public comments by 12 p.m. on Tuesday prior to the board meeting. Public comments could also be mailed to the Board of Commissioners Office, 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook, Oregon, 97141. For more information on public comment options, please visit the Board of Commissioners webpage. Do we have anyone signed up in the room, or has anyone registered online for public comment?
We have one person online, and I believe Kaden wanted to make a public.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, I've already called this meeting to order. I would invite everyone in the room to please sign our guest list and welcome. We're always delighted to have people in the room with us. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Bell, would you lead us?
Well,
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we begin public comments, I just would like to take note and welcome Commissioner Fournier. This is his first official commissioner meeting, so we're delighted to have you with us. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. All right. So with that, we will start with public comment. And I know that I have online, I have Aaron Schultz, who's with us this morning, who would like to make public comment. So Aaron, if you would like to, there you go, turn your camera on and unmute yourself.
Morning.
Good morning. You have 2 minutes, sir.
All right. I'm commenting about agenda item number 12, lifting the caps for our short-term rental on the west of the river. So I'd just like to say that Pacific City is a very special place for my wife and I. We're both Oregonians who spent a lot of time here as children. We got married here, and after looking for many years, we were finally able to buy a home in 2022. Although we live here part-time, we do want the option to rent if needed. And putting 4 boys through college, every little bit helps, as you can imagine. But we're not investors. Our home is not a business. We're just regular people. We were number 5 on the wait list after the lottery. It took over a year to get to number 1, which ironically coincided with us selling that house and purchasing a new one. Literally, we got to number 1 on the list the day the house closed after 2 years of waiting. Unfortunately, we were told we could not transfer our place in line on the wait list. So now we're starting over at number 26 or something. During the sales process, it was very apparent homes with transferable licenses absolutely sell at higher prices. This is very inequitable, and people aren't giving up their licenses because of perceived value. The way to solve this would be to designate vacation resort zones like oceanfront homes and neighborhoods built for fractional and vacation use, be used as short-term rentals, very similar to how Hawaii manages their resort zones. Furthermore, PC has a wait list, and being unincorporated Tillamook County, with the county earning a larger portion of the TLT and the budget shortfall, it seems that lifting the cap west of the river would help abate this problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Okay, moving on. We have with us this morning the infamous Kaylin from the Y.
Hello, commissioners. Thank you for your time. My name is Kalen Cisco. Kalen from the Y, as I'm lovingly adopted that name, so I appreciate it. I'm just kind of on a thank you tour and wanted to take some time. I've accepted a new role in Spokane, Washington, so I'll be moving on. And this place has been home to me for the past 10 years. And I've just really appreciated the times I've been in front of this panel and the support that the county gives to our local community organizations, specifically the Y. I've been volunteering for many other organizations as well, and I just love the way that the county really embraces the things that our nonprofits do. And I just wanted to say thank you. My time here has been unbelievably pleasant. It was a very difficult time, very difficult choice to make. In fact, in the interview, they said, "Why do you want to leave Tillamook?" And my answer was, "I don't. I love Tillamook. I don't want to leave." But you know how things work in life sometimes. But so I just wanted to say thank you, Commissioner Scar, Commissioner Bell. I've worked with you a lot for many years on many different projects before you're commissioners and then while you're commissioners. And so I just really appreciate both you, Paul. We never worked together, but we've spent time across from each other at the fair booths where we shot things at each other with rubber bands and stuff like that. So that was fun. But good luck to you. And all I can do is recommend that they continue the support that this county has shown to organizations, because that's what makes this community thrive and work and make the greatest place to live. So I just really appreciate it and just wanted to express my gratitude. So thank you.
Thank you. Chair's prerogative. Would anyone like to respond to Kaylin? Typically, we don't to comments, but this is a little bit unique.
Oh, truly. Yes, I would love to respond to Kaylin and just say thank you for 10 years of extraordinary service to Tillamook County. You have just done such an outstanding job with the Y, but also all over the place in the community, in many places that you serve. And to have seen the way the Y has grown under your leadership has just been remarkable. And of course, you have a great team, and I anticipate you're going to say that anyway. But truly, you know, you led the team, and what I saw happening is that so many people in this community trust you and believe in you and respect you, that you created the situation where people wanted to invest because they believed that you would steward the program well, and you have. So it's grown under your leadership, and you are a treasure. I'm happy for your new community. I'm happy for you and your family for your new opportunity. I'm sad for us, but I certainly don't begrudge you the opportunity to grow professionally. Of course, you want to do that. So,
Thank you.
we have been lucky to have you for 10 years, and I have been lucky to consider you a friend and your beautiful family. And so I'm happy you're here, and I wish you Godspeed.
Thank you.
Well, like I told you earlier, I'm a little bit upset about this whole move, but I'm also very happy for you. Yeah, I agree with everything Commissioner Bell said. Also, I'm going to miss your outfits at the fundraiser. I don't know how we're going to go on without that.
I could reprise a role or two.
That would be great.
We'll
Maybe
see.
come back and visit us just for the fundraiser. But also, I was at the bowling alley the other day with Michelle and McKenna, and I was just like, how grateful I was that you stepped up and saved, that building and found the funding for it. So, yeah, you'll be greatly missed, but I'm happy for the adventure that you're going on. So, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I share all of the sentiments that my colleagues have shared. You changed the YMCA in our community in just an extremely significant way. There was a time where the partnership with the YMCA in the community was just very thin. And at this point, I can't think of a better partner in our community than the YMCA for everyone. During the pandemic, it was, you said, well, wow, we can't do what we normally do. How do we do something significant for our community? And you took on a whole different body of work. making sure that the Y was relevant and helpful during that time, and that was just visionary. So I thank you for that vision. You've been a leader in childcare, really looking at the Y's role, but also the community childcare and how you can be a big part of that. More than once, I've been in a meeting with you where a small organization was saying, "We're not sure how we're going to do this," and you said, "How can the Y help you do that?" I mean, that's entrepreneurial and visionary, and that's you. That's your leadership. So I just really want to thank you for the leadership you brought in revisioning and engaging the YMCA in our community. And that's you. I mean, it's right down to the crazy outfits and the bright orange shoes and all the other things, that you're just put yourself out there. So you put yourself out there both personally, but also as the leader of the Y, and put the Y out there in our community. So I want to thank you for that. I also will miss you and your family and your wife. She was on my board for many years, and just a fabulous family that you have, and also wish you the best. And did hear somewhere in our conversations, I think at Kiwanis, where you were saying you were going to keep your home and that we would still see you here
Yes.
occasionally. So we'll be looking to run into you at Fred Meyer and all of those places where you run into people here in Tulip. So thank you for your service and best of luck. I know that you don't need the luck. You'll be amazing.
Thank you. Appreciate the kind words. Love you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Kaylin. Okay. We will move. Oh, we have one non-agenda item that we are going to take after item number 11. So then we will move on to the legislative administrative agenda. And item number 5, consideration of an application to the Department of Veterans Affairs to authorize Under Sheriff Matt Kelly as a certifying official of Veterans Administration enrollments for Sheriff's Office personnel. And we have with us this morning Nick Torres, Veteran Service Officer, and Under Sheriff Kelly. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. So today, we're coming before you to ask for authorization for the Sheriff's Office to participate in GI Bill educational benefits. So sheriff deputies can utilize the GI Bill benefits to cover the cost of attending a police academy, which would typically be paid for by the department itself, allowing them to receive their regular salary while training, effectively using the GI Bill benefits for other expenses like living costs or additional education beyond the academy through housing allowance provided by the GI Bill. Some key points to this is the primary benefit is the GI Bill can cover tuition costs of attending a police academy, which is often requirement for becoming a sheriff department. I believe our sheriff department covers that cost. The deputies wouldn't be able to participate in that portion. The portion they would be able to participate is in the basic housing allowance. While attending the academy, veterans can also receive a monthly housing allowance based on their location, which our location would be approximately $1,700 a month based off E5 pay with dependents. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Under Sheriff, was there anything you'd like to add?
Not much. I mean, most people don't realize that when we hire new people, it's really expensive to get into this career field. We do provide a lot of things for them to start, but there's duty belts, weapons, extra set of boots, stuff like that. It can be really overwhelming to some brand new people that we hire because it's like a mechanic with their set of tools. They need that, and it's thousands of dollars that they have to expend that first couple of years. And this is a way for the GI Bill that they've earned through their service to the country, that they can use that instead of getting a college degree. They can get a stipend from the Department of Veteran Affairs, and it helps with their normal salary and gets them on their feet in those lower stages of the pay scale. So it's a really unique thing that we can contribute, and it's a minor inconvenience that I have to do some paperwork, but it's a good thing.
Perfect. Thank you. Colleagues, I'm actually going to invite Commissioner Fournier as a full
Yeah.
member of the office to talk a little bit if you'd like.
Well, no, I can speak to what Matt's saying. The department doesn't purchase all the gear, so there's a big expense. Also, housing is obviously a big issue here. So I'm excited about this because I think we can get some new hires in here, and they have a guarantee some rent money to help them get settled in here while they're at the academy, at least.
It should be about it's a Basically, it's an OJT. While they're on that first 18 months while they're in training. So we'll just keep records of what training they're going through their FTEP manual by their trainer. So that first 18 months, they can get a little bit ahead, and then it does drop off, and they'll be just on the normal pay scale.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Thank you. Commissioner?
As do I. It's a great opportunity. I'm happy that veterans have this incentive and assistance to be able to pursue law enforcement as a career. I think it's wonderful.
Okay, as do I. Agree with my colleagues, and I appreciate both of you doing the work to bring this on board. So this is an exciting opportunity. I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of an application to the Department of Veterans Affairs to authorize Under Sheriff Matt Kelly as certifying official of Veterans Administration enrollments for Sheriff's Office personnel.
My first second.
Woo-hoo, all right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 6. Consideration of an order in the matter of adjusting certain fees at Tillamook County campgrounds. And we have Dan Kais, Director of Parks, with us, and I know a couple of your staff. So if you all introduce yourself when you join us at the table, that would be fabulous. And please remember that the microphone, if all 3 of you are speaking, does need to be passed so that people online can hear everyone who speaks. Thank you.
Brandy Pearson, Office Manager at Tillamook County Parks.
Linda Machuda, Accounting Tech at the Parks.
Thank you.
And Dan Kais, Parks Director for Tillamook County. First of all, good morning, Commissioners, and thank you for your time this morning. The Parks Department is coming before you today to get authorization for a couple of items. The first one is the increase in camping fees only across the board. The fee increase would be, is we're recommending, proposing $5 increase. And then the other part of that is that we had a winter rate set for camping fees. We would like to have all the fees just be the same, as after some analysis, we didn't really feel like that the winter rates were as much of an incentive to bring people here as maybe previously thought. And we also think that our campgrounds are significant enough and beautiful enough that they alone drive our customer base, which I found this last summer is just really amazing. The second item that we'd like authorization for, and this was recently brought to my attention based on previous board orders, is that when we sell parking passes, annual parking passes, that in the past had been based on a calendar year. We would like to request authorization to have those passes be rolling so that they are good for a year once they're purchased. We feel that provides people a lot more flexibility. We also feel like that our sale of season passes will increase significantly because of the increased flexibility. So I don't know if you want me to go through the fees or not. I don't know if we need to do that. You can certainly tell me, but I can tell you that what's driving this request for fee increase is essentially 4 items. One is refuse management expenses have gone just skyrocketed this last year. And then the other one is our water rate increases have also increased significantly, as much as 50%. The conversion of our showers from coin operated to timer switches is also being conducted at this point. So essentially, if you pass this, that when folks come to the campgrounds and take showers, it'll be part of their fee, and they will not have to bring a purse full of quarters, right? And then the last thing is that we very much want to assist the county in budget considerations, and part of this would also be the transfer of $150,000 for a public safety fee. So with that in mind, do we have anything else that I missed at this point?
I don't think so.
Okay, so those are the 2 items at this time.
Thank you. Commissioner Bell, any comments as the liaison?
I am delighted to pass this, to vote for this. I'm grateful for all your work. I think it's timely. It's been a long time since we raised fees, and all of your reasons are sound, and I'm particularly grateful to Parks that you want to contribute to the general fund for public safety reasons, and I just think it's outstanding. It's an outstanding effort, so thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
I agree with Commissioner Bell. Also, I really appreciate your changing the rolling date for the parking pass. I think that's a great idea. The state does that. Also, the fee increase is mirroring the state parks have raised their parking fees as well as their camping fees. So I have no problem with it at all.
Thank you.
And I'm in agreement. I think my colleagues have shared the pertinent information, so I think we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of order number 25-001 in the matter of adjusting certain fees at Tillamook County campgrounds.
Second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much. Appreciate it.
Commissioners.
Okay, we will move on to item number 7. Consideration of a 14th Amendment to Oregon Health Authority 2023-2025 Intergovernmental Agreement number 180028 for the financing of public health services. We have Marlene Putman, Administrator, Health and Human Services. Good morning, Marlene.
Good morning. Yes, we're moving on with our list of amendments for our Oregon Health Authority agreements, which, as you know, continue over the entire biennium for these agreements. So this is a fairly small one on this 14th Amendment. It relates to one program element, or PE as it's referred to in the document. And that element is 43-05. So what does that mean? That is the Oregon Immunization Program. And this amount is for $6,549.18. The agreement indicates in attachment A that amount is taken out of our first year of the biennium, and in attachment C is returned in the second year of our agreement, which starts July 1, 2024 and runs through June 30, 2025. So basically taking from 1 year of the biennium and transferring it to the second year. It's a carryover amount of funds that were awarded to us during COVID. That's why the amount is so small. The state didn't want us to lose the funds, but to still allow us to expend them during the authorized payment period. So has to be expended by 2025. I think we can do that for the $6,549.18. And the detail of the program description is in the full contract with Oregon Health Authority. So if you're interested in seeing how the Oregon Immunization Program works, that detail is provided there. This is effective November 1 of 2024, but does run for the 24-25 fiscal year.
Thank you,
I
Marlene.
think that's it for an overview. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just say quickly for Commissioner Fournier's benefit, this happens frequently where we just go from 1 year to the next year, and so they take it here and move it there. So it's a very typical process. You'll see lots of these amendments, both with the Marlene and her department, as well as with Tillamook Family Counseling, because the mental health service money comes from us and goes to them. And they also end up with multiple amendments as the state just tweaks things during the year. So any comments, colleagues?
None for me.
Thank you. All right, I'm ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of a 14th Amendment to the Oregon Health Authority 2023-2025 Intergovernmental Agreement number 180028 for the financing of public health services.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, Marlene, it looks like you have the next couple as well. So number 8, consideration of professional services agreement number 24/25-017 with McKinstry Ascension LLC for the Health and Human Services Main Clinic Expansion and Renovation Project.
Yes, so I did talk about this briefly, I think in a board briefing session, talking about the health departments need to expand our space to address the demand for services in the community, and also just to have the space for clinicians to be able to meet with the patients, as well as for a better, I would say, registration, but also trying to protect that confidentiality for patients as they come in. So this agreement, as indicated, the county's been working with McKinstry. They were involved in the whole facilities review for all of our facilities for the Health and Human Services Department, but also for the county as a whole. And we extended that agreement with McKinstry to assist us in looking at our facilities and space planning needs. So they told us, you have this many buildings that you lease or own, and you clearly need to have more space to be able to provide some of these services. They talked about some deferred maintenance things, a number of other things. But really what that led us to do was then make sure that we address some of the issues around our HVAC system, which we've discussed again previously and made recommendations for what that might be. And this is an agreement to talk about what we could do to expand our current facility, which we lease, and what would that look like? Well, of course, you can't propose an expansion to a landlord or to a funder without having a plan. So what this allows us to do is to take a look at that space that we have, what the current demand and need for services are, what the staff needs and recommendations are, and to come up with that plan. So this agreement describes what that scope of work is in the attachment that lists the Tillamook County Health and Human Services expansion and renovation proposal. The last, I don't know, about 6 pages of the document, including looking at between a 1,500, well, almost 1,600 square feet expansion of reception and some related patient access areas, an interior renovation around 2,400 square feet. And it gives the detail of what would be required, including the potential of the new HVAC system that needs to be replaced soon. Again, this is a proposal and would include all of the related drawings, all of the projected costs, and would allow us as a department in the county as a whole to also be able to apply for funding should it come up. Sometimes that does occur with the Health Resources and Services Administration for capital improvements. So we would have those things in place in advance. We'd have this information to share with our landlord to say, here's what we're proposing. Or should we in the future have the building and want to expand it, we'd also have this in our back pocket and ready to go. The funding that is being used to cover these costs, a total of $276,806, is from funds that were set aside by our health council and our co-applicant, which is the county, to prepare for both facilities maintenance, improvements, and expansion, including the cost for these kinds of architectural drawings and investigation and recommendations for expansion. So this is about a 5-month timeline, although some of the work was initiated during the county's facilities assessment with McKinstry. So this agreement again runs through approximately February 28th of 2025. We may need to extend it a little bit further, but at this point, that's our timeline, is to try to get all of this taken care of, all the drawings and recommendations done, interviews and so forth by that time frame. So we would have a year or two to look at how we could complete the expansion. Do we have the resources in place? Because we would need to use a significant part of the reserve that's been built up over 25 years for this purpose. So I think that's an overview. It's been reviewed by legal counsel. We've talked about it with the commissioners in advance. I'm happy to talk about more detail and or to bring back our folks who are doing the schematic design.
Thank you, Marlene. I think we've talked about this quite a bit. We had I think a pretty in-depth board briefing around this, and it's just part of doing business. And I'll just remind those who are viewing online, if you're wondering, as we talk about, the tightening of the budgets of the county and why would we consider perhaps an expansion at this time, the federally qualified health center that we operate alongside our public health department is a standalone revenue generating, just as the parks are standalone revenue generating. And it is run really in a very entrepreneurial way, where the revenues that they generate allow us to expand and provide additional community services. So as you heard Marlene speak about, it's really looking carefully at what is in the reserve they have built up over many years to determine if the funds are there and if this is the best use of the funds to meet community needs. So I think having a plan in place is crucial. We know that when grants come out, as has happened in the past from the federal government to allow for expansion of federally qualified health centers, we need to be ready. If we're not ready, the money comes and goes and we don't get our piece of it. So I think this is important. Colleagues, any questions or comments?
I am fully supportive and I think it's exciting, so
I also remember the presentation. I'm fully supportive of the expansion and I'm excited about the new building.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. We are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of professional services agreement number 24/25-017 with McKinstry Ascension LLC for the Health and Human Services Main Clinic Expansion and Renovation Project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, Marlene, one more for you. Consideration of professional services agreement number 24/25-012 at the Smile Studio for federally qualified health center FQHC plan Medicaid and non-insured dental services.
Yes, this is an annual contract. We've been working with the Smile Studio for a number of years. As you may recall, our department operates a dental clinic, but we don't have the capacity to serve our 7,000 plus assigned members. So we work with our partner dental clinics in Tillamook County and contract with them to serve some of that patient population. This agreement is the arrangement that we have with the Smile Studio to do just that. We provide dental services for uninsured, underinsured people who have Medicaid, and the Smile Studio serves that population on our behalf, and they do a fantastic job, and we appreciate that partnership. This agreement is for a 1-year period. It starts January 1 of 2025 and runs through December 31 of 2025, so 1-year period. The amount in the agreement under item 2 and price and amount are the same as we discussed most recently, just a couple of months ago with an amendment. So that amount has not changed, but in the amendment, there was an increase in those based on increased costs and the needs of the staffing for that in the contracted dental clinics. So the detail basically describes that they cover the scope of services that would be covered under standard Medicaid provision of service. It's a huge document. So that is part of the arrangement that we have with this contracted dental partner for scope of service. I think that's also it for an overview and has been reviewed by legal and is here for your consideration.
Thank you, Marlene. We've had great partnerships with our local dentists participating to help us serve those 7,000 individuals, and I'm pleased they continue to be interested in partnering with us. Questions, colleagues?
No, I'm also grateful that we are able to provide dental services for Tillamook County residents.
No questions.
Okay, I think we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of professional services agreement number 24-25/25-012 with the Smile Studio for federally qualified health center plan, Medicaid, and non-insured dental services.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Marlene. Appreciate it.
Thank you and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Okay, we'll move on to item number 10, consideration of a hazardous material emergency preparedness grant, CFDA number 20-703, grant number 2025-HMEP-013 with the Department of the Oregon State Fire Marshal for hazardous materials emergency response training. Randy Thorpe, Director of Emergency Management. Morning, Randy.
Good morning, Commissioners. What I've got here before you is another grant. This will be our second grant that we applied for and received through the state fire marshal's office, which is something new, at least for me, so it's another source of additional revenue. This grant specifically is for the ability for us to update a plan that's called the Emergency Response Plan. And of course, there's millions of emergency response plans, but this one is tied directly to hazardous material response in the county. And it's a plan that the county has to have, again, by state law through the fire marshal's office. And it's also in conjunction with, most of you probably are unaware, but it's called the LEPC, and it's a local emergency preparedness committee. And what that is it's made up of the interested parties and the ones that are affected by hazardous material reporting. It's a group that gets together, they are in a committee, and they work on making our responses better to hazardous material response. And a lot of people don't realize that we do have not a lot, but we have 4 or 5 what they call Tier 2 reporting. And they're the ones that have what they call the extremely hazardous substances. And we do have, like I say, a handful of those in the county. And because of that reporting, again, this type of plan is required to have, so those industries are also in compliance. So it's our plan that we have is a little bit out of date, not as bad as some, but it was requested by the State Fire Marshal's Office that we do an update on it. And with their request, along came some grant money, which is the best way to do this. So what this will do, it'll allow us as a county to hire an outside agency to come in and update it for us, which will speed up the process and not be a real burden upon people in the community. There is a 25% matching, but that is in kind. We can use that. So all I have to do is track everybody's time, put a dollar amount on it, and use that as our matching fund, which is very easy to do to match this grant. The grant is just $20,000 or up to $20,000. And so that's all I have to do is anybody that is involved with that plan, we just, we run, I collect that data, and then we use that as our cost share. So, and again, this is one of those plans that has to be in place in order for me to go after additional money. So this one is going to allow me to go after additional money for training, which I've already applied for. I will be sending an application here soon for some additional training in the hazardous material area. So again, with that plan, plus there's also a training program through FEMA, which I found, and it's also tied to this plan. So again, it's one of those plans that we have to have in order to go get more money. So it's a great opportunity for us to continue moving forward with making the county a lot safer place to be.
All right, thank you, Randy. Appreciate that. Commissioner Bell, any comments as liaison?
I am grateful for your work on this, Randy. It's important work, it's necessary, and you're doing a really great job going after grants, so thank you.
I would say the same thing. I appreciate the work on you going after these grants. I think as we're going through this financial problem, a lot of our departments are going to be needing to look for more grants, and I love how you're just out there finding them. So keep up the good work.
I have a really good PME look that I've developed over the last few months. So
we appreciate it.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. I agree with my colleagues, and I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of a hazardous material emergency preparedness grant, CFDA number 20.703, grant number 2025-HMEP-013 with the Department of Oregon State Fire Marshal for Hazardous Materials Emergency Response Training.
And I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Randy. And you're up again. Gosh,
Up again.
trying to get you out of there. All right, so
Well-
I have to read it first.
Okay.
Consideration of an emergency management performance grant program grant agreement number 24-528 with the Oregon Department of Emergency Management.
Unfortunately, this is a grant that I brought before you last year, which doesn't mean it was a long time ago, but brought it before you. We had it signed. We sent it up. The state reviewed it and said, "Oh, we've got to make some changes on the front page." Okay, so they made some changes on the front page, and now it's back before. And I can explain. It's basically it's not changes in the body of the grant. It had nothing, doesn't change anything in it. What it is if on the front page with the exhibits that they they have exhibit A through F, and what they needed to do is change on 3 of them, the B, C, and D, from actually saying something to the word reserved. That's all it was, is because those items do not pertain to grants under $100,000. So instead of including them in it, they decided to take it out. Then the second change they had to do is they quoted the wrong law. So the next one is where it's pursuant to Oregon law. They had to change it from what's on there, the 2021 to the 2022. And so that was the 2 differences, all that they had to do. So we're hoping that they warned us a little bit because they changed their contracting format through all the state agencies. And so again, when you change a template, it took a long time, and they're still finding issues to do that. So I think this is going to be our final one. And so that's why we're back again, to get another signature and get it back up and through it. And of course, this grant took effect on September 1st of last year.
I love the state. Thank you. Commissioners, any comments?
We'll hope this one sticks.
Yes.
I have nothing.
You will learn that the state does this frequently to us. So in varying forms, you've already seen 2 this morning. Okay, with that, I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of an emergency management performance grant program grant agreement number 24-528 with the Oregon Department of Emergency Management.
And I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being so flexible and understanding.
Okay, we will move on to our unscheduled item, which is consideration of a personnel requisition for a new regular full-time maintenance equipment operator 2 for the Public Works Department. Chris Leidy, Director of Public Works. Good morning, Chris. You are muted, I believe.
Thank you.
There you go.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm going to do just a little bit of background on budgeting and personnel on us. Bear with me just a little bit of time. I know that the graphic is reversed, but I do think it still is informative. A sneak peek of something that you'll see as we start moving into the budget process. So the road department has been historically funded through the state gas tax and the federal forest fee. We do not get state forest fee revenue. And currently, we've been seeing transient lodging tax come through there. Back in the late 80s, we were seeing a peak of employment of 50 people. At that point, we were seeing inflation adjusted numbers from the federal forest fees of $9 million. The federal forest harvesting, if you recall, way back in the day, we started running into the spotted owl issues. So in the late 80s, early 90s, that number had significantly plummeted. So the very first one you see on the screen, which again, it's reverse order, is in blue. So blue in 1998, we had 34 employees in there. This was after a significant drop in our federal forest timber, which was approximately $9 million, down to 2.5 million. Everything here has been inflation adjusted to 2024. So blue represents the federal forest fee. So back in '98, we were at 34 people. And then you saw more of a significant impact on storms, which you started to see 06, 07, 9, 11, 12, 15, and declarations in 23 and 24. So we've neglected taking a look at the when we take into that account, we were seeing 25% of our revenue for those big projects came out of our funds, these type of our main core. So as these events continued on, that revenue was required to go into the match necessary for FEMA. So the revenue stream, while it looks great, was actually decreasing due to that. So what you saw is the very next evolution of the federal timber started to see significant drop again. So as you go down to the low point of 2012, 2013, timber had significantly fallen again. So in 1998, we're at 34 people. In 2012, 2013, we saw mass layoffs. So at 34 people, 50 people down to 34, down to 17 people is what we employed after mass layoffs back in 2013. At that point, we finally got a bond passed after 2 failed attempts, and we started seeing the bond come back in. So the expenses with that, the bond went almost exclusively towards asphalt on the ground, not entirely, but it was almost all entirely purchasing asphalt to place on the ground. So that bond has since expired. So what we saw with a peak low down on 2014, 2013 at 17 people, TLT revenue, which is in green, starts to come on the rise. The bond has since expired. So our third major source of revenue, actually our second major source of revenue, or third, is the transfer from federal, from the transient lodging tax. Federal government has stabilized out the federal forest fee. That is something that could be gone every, any given year. It is extended. That is something that's been on the chopping block every so often at the federal level. So that's a source that has been reliable, but it's no longer reliable. The state motor vehicle fee, which is essentially your gas tax, no matter where you go and buy gas in the state, 30%, it all goes to ODOT. ODOT keeps 50% of that. The counties get 30% of that. That money is distributed to the counties based on who has registered vehicles in that county. So what you see in Tillamook County is we were 40+% of all of our property is owned by somebody outside of the county. So that means registered vehicles are no longer registered into the county. So the inflationary growth that you would typically see is not happening in Tillamook. So our share of the state motor vehicle fee has actually been declining based on if you adjust things up to revenue. From a pure dollar amount, this is the first year where we're seeing essentially a static growth, a drop if you inflation adjust it. So we're starting to see a decline in the state motor vehicle fee, so much so that ODOT, and 50% of all the gas tax in the state goes to ODOT. They've got some significant structural financial issues that should be a major topic at the state legislature. Personnel is one of the things that we struggled with. We were seeing significant, many times where we were short 3 or 4 people, and we have 2 crews. One crew operates essentially from Highway 6 north to the Clatsop County line, and the other crew, 6 people budgeted from Highway 6 all the way down to the Lincoln County line. We've struggled with 3 to 4 people being short historically. And then we also ran into a shortage of trying to identify commercial drivers. So all of our dump trucks require a commercial driver to operate. So we had struggles with just hiring people. There's many times when we went out for recruitment and we couldn't even get an applicant. We also saw through this time period with budget is quite our employees, what we paid our drivers were significantly off market, so much so that in our most recent review of staff budget, we saw the drivers got a significant pay increase. What that allowed us to do is become competitive back in the market. And we're starting to see employees apply for our types of jobs, versus in the past, we didn't even get employees. We also have things that were fairly, that have a tendency to cycle through. So I went back in time to see why do we see people transfer in and out? So kind of in a little bit in sequence of our last number of employees that no longer are employed with us is one, there were some personnel issues. One got fired due to alcohol. We had one employee that just flat out didn't like the type of work. He wanted to do something that was very consistent. We do a wide variety of things. ODOT does a very focused, limited amount of work. We do the gambit. Things that ODOT would normally contract for, we're doing like paving. We had one that, due to long-term medical issues, had recycled out. One had wanted to work in another department. The job opening wasn't available. He started working for us, and then when that job became available in another department, went to go work for that. Another one was just purely based on the dollar amount at that time. We had one move out of state. We had another employee that was fired due to a safety issue. We had a younger gentleman with a family, ended up moving to PUD with the stated you can't eat retirement, which is great. Another employee just did not like the type of work. We haul these big heavy trucks and we've got fairly steep roads. That can be a little nerve wracking when you're a brand new CDL. We got to the point in our recruitment where, and this is across the board, ODOT, all counties, where we couldn't find CDL drivers. So we were hiring on entry level positions, and we were doing internal training to get them. Once they got their license, we had one employee, she received her license, and the very next day she quit and went to go work in the private industry. So we trained her, and this is not uncommon out there at the county level. So we have gone through a cycle of people for a variety of reasons, some internal work that we need to improve upon, and some of which are, sometimes it was just the people we hired. With that, if we had a good pool of people, we probably wouldn't have hired. Now we're starting to see a really good influx of people that want to work for the county. So currently we have 2 vacancies. One is in the crew member, and we are budgeted for 24 people, and the operations superintendent. So we're 2 short in our budgeted amount. So historically, we couldn't even get people to apply. Now we're starting to get good candidates, knowing that we do have a few people that medical and a couple other issues. We anticipate that we'll probably see, again, history, and we'll probably end up seeing, another drop in employees. So with the 2 positions that are remain vacant, the operations superintendent, which we will go back out and advertise for again, and the 1 position of the CDL, I would like the ability to, if we get the right candidates, to overfill our CDL position, which is, one of the members of the crew. These are the guys on the ground that respond to storms, middle of the night. They are the ones that actually are working on the paving crew, getting things done. So the request is to not hire just one, not just hire one to fill the 1 vacancy, is to hire 2, with the intent that I know I'm overfilling that position and I'm outside the budget. Historically, I've been very conservative in my budgeting, so much so with the lack of people is based on a volunteer request. I've allowed them to work essentially as much overtime as they want, provided that there were some caveats. The work needs to be accountable. It needs to be approved by the foreman. You'll start to see mowers working on a Saturday or Sunday. So that, to kind of offset that, we would limit some of that volunteer work, so that we could, help to pay for this. So the request is to hire up to 2 people to fill the 1 vacancy. A little bit of background, more than you were anticipating, I'm sure.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. I think it was a good overview of Public Works overtime. Commissioner Bell, actually, with Commissioner Olson, who is liaison. Are you liaison? No, you are. Commissioner Fournier, would you like to make any
Well,
comments?
I think, I'm glad to hear that he's getting some good candidates. I mean, obviously recruitment has been a big problem, and we are losing a lot. The money review is interesting. 51% of our tax statements go out of county, which means those cars are not being registered here, to Chris's point. So, no, I have nothing else. I support this.
Thank you, Commissioner Bell.
As do I. I think it's a good strategy. We've done it before in Public Works successfully. I'm pleased to hear that you're getting some solid candidates, and I hope that this works.
And I agree. I think we have to, in essence, strike while the iron is hot with hiring, particularly of commercial drivers. And again, your funding is outside the general fund, so this makes sense. So I think we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of a personnel requisition for a new regular full-time maintenance equipment operator 2 for the Public Works Department.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion
Thank
carries.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Okay, item number 12, consideration of an order in the matter of repealing board order number 23-054 and adopting revised cap limits on short-term rental licenses in 21 geographic sub-areas of unincorporated Tillamook County. We have Sarah Absher, Director, Department of Community Development, with us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, and good morning, Lynn.
Yes. So with me today, I brought Lynn Tone, who is the short-term rental license technician who has done a tremendous amount of work with me these last couple of years, actually. She was the key administrative staff for the short-term rental advisory committee process as well. But she's done a tremendous amount of work, both in the license renewal portion of the work that we've been doing, as well as helping with the board order that is before you today. What she just provided to you was a copy of the board order that the board adopted in 2023. This was the order that followed adoption of Ordinance 84 Amendment 2. And the order specifically focused on establishing the number of licenses that would be allowed for each of the sub-areas in unincorporated Tillamook County. So there's a total of 21 sub-areas. They start north. Most north is Neocani, and the most southerly sub-area is Neskowin. And these include all of the city urban growth boundaries. And it was intentional to separate the order from the ordinance. It is a licensing program. This is not land use. And it was understood that two things. One, this program would continue to evolve. And one of the things the board has been very thoughtful about is how does the program evolve? What do we want the program to look like in the future? The other element of that was slow and thoughtful growth. And so by putting the licenses in a separate board order and not part of the ordinance, the board has the ability on whatever time period they choose to decide if the number of licenses that are allowed for each sub-area is appropriate. And when that board order was approved, there were a couple of other things that were contained in that order. We had to lift the pause. We hadn't done that yet. So the order before you, the 2023 order, also talked about how we lift the pause, the program resumption lottery, all these things that we walked through this last year. And the reason why there is a new order before you today is because those steps are done and they are behind us. And so now we are looking at a simplified order that really just focuses on the number of caps the board would like to approve for each sub-area. Part of the work that we did this last year at the direction of the board and my promise to communities was to go back and visit with them about the 2023 board order in terms of their cap numbers, how they felt about it. Were they too high? Are they too low? Because to lift the pause, we increased every license limit by 1%, and that's how we moved forward. So in that work, I talked to several communities. Those included, just to give you a recap, Neocani, Oceanside, Netarts, Cape Mears, Tierra del Mar, Pacific City, and Neskowin. So these are all of our communities that are very active. They were very actively engaged in the short-term rental ordinance amendment process. And what I really appreciate about those conversations is it gave us an opportunity not to just to talk about the cap limits, but to talk about the ordinance amendments themselves, how they were going to be implemented into the program, what was working, what was not working. We've tracked the complaint line numbers together and had all of these great conversations, more of which we're going to come back with a comprehensive report for you in the near future, just to talk about what 2024 looked like for the program as a whole. But what I really appreciate is that the communities, with the exception of Pacific City, I'll talk about in a minute, some more reluctantly than others, but all were supportive of taking another year and taking a wait and see approach and not adjusting the cap limits at this time for the number of licenses in their sub areas. And for a few reasons. One, it was recognized the program, the changes and the updates that we made are still being implemented. We have not fully realized or been able to fully track for an adequate period of time, in my opinion, how these changes are, working through the program itself. The other thing, communities, we've had a lot of communities that have supported the county's decision in these ordinance updates. And as you know, there's been a lot of litigation. Understanding that that phase of this program update process has not yet been completed, communities recognize this is not the right time to make changes. My promise to them was to continue to come back, to continue to talk about the caps, to continue to talk about the program, and reevaluate after one more year. One of the biggest elements that has not gone into effect yet, that has just started, is the use it or lose it clause. So that actually starts this year. So we don't know for certain how that will impact our wait list and the rotation of licenses. What we have found this year is that people have renewed their licenses. It's been a heavy lift. There's been a lot of work and a lot of paperwork to renew in 2024, to close it in 2025 for not renting. It seems like a lot of work to do one year just to simply close your license the next. So I'm very optimistic that we are going to continue to see steady evolution of these program updates. All of the communities that I have mentioned would like to see their license numbers reduced. All of them feel they are too high. Some of the most notable conversations that I had, I would say with Oceanside, we did a lot of GIS work to talk about what is the number and the percentage in the village area, kind of that area that's their downtown core by Cape Mears versus the outerlying areas of the community, and ran those numbers. And it was very clear that the density, the concentration, really where we've also seen and heard about the most community livability issues have been in that village area. Nescowan was an area where the community talked about, well, maybe the condos aren't part of a cap in the future. They have traditionally, historically been more transient lodging in nature. And so we've done some numbers to track that and see what that would look like if we separated those areas. Cape Mears is our only community that consistently has not reached their quota for the number of licenses available. They are very eager to drop their limit because the licenses just simply are not being filled at full capacity. One of the things that we did that's reflected in the order, in the GIS work, as you know, we did a lot of GIS work before the initial order was approved by the board. I want to especially thank Wendy from the assessor's office for her work on helping pull that together. As we've continued, Nikki, who is also online, our GIS contractor, has done an incredible job of helping us with the newer GIS system to be able to continue to track and evaluate those numbers and watch those percentages. What we discovered was that because of the duplexes and triplexes in areas like Oceanside, those properties were counted one time for a license, even though each dwelling unit had its own license. So spent a lot of time talking to Oceanside about that. In the order before you, you do see an increase for Oceanside by 10 licenses, and that is to pick up those existing licenses
that were not picked up during that first GIS round. What I want to be clear in saying is that when the board authorized 10 additional licenses to be issued for Oceanside when the 2023 order was approved, that is all we have issued. These are older licenses that because of that GIS exercise did not get picked up. So coordination with Wendy, Nikki, and the assessor's office for their most current tax roll data, we have been able to put together and confirm the numbers that the board approved in 2023. The only other pickup there was one in Barview, Twin Rocks, Watsiko. Now that being said, when we looked at the number of dwelling units in each of these sub areas with these two minor license adjustments, the overall percentage did not change. So in Oceanside, even picking up those 10 existing licenses, when we did the math, the percentage did not change. So the other thing that is not on your order this morning that was on the previous order was the percentage. And in visiting with Nikki, council, what we determined is because the program itself is dynamic, the numbers are always changing. But that the GIS data work to determine the number of dwelling units is also dynamic. Everything is constantly changing, and it is our recommendation to move away from the percentages on the order. It's important to know that. I think you should know what is the percentage of dwellings in each sub area that has a license. But in terms of the order to keep it clean and to simply establish a number of licenses available for each community, we have taken the percentages off. And so it is our recommendation as a team that has done this work this year to request to you that those percentages be absent. We will include those in reports and updates. It's still relevant, but this keeps it clean. So next steps, I would like to continue to work with the communities, keep my promise to them, and would love that direction from you. With that, each year to continue to come back, work with the assessor's office, look at that tax roll data, how many homes have been added to these communities. We've said 149 licenses. What does that mean in terms of percentages? And so then the last piece of this that I wanted to talk about was Pacific City Woods. So the community had several conversations with the community, mostly at CAC meetings, and also did hold some special meetings with Pacific City Woods just to talk about their cap. Commissioner Olson, I want to thank him. He was with me for all of those meetings. And there was overwhelming consensus and support from those meetings to create a cap exemption area in Pacific City. So with that, you have the language in the order and a map that will be an exhibit to that order that defines and delineates that area where we are proposing a cap exemption area. They still need a license. They still need to go through the process. They need to pass the fire and life safety inspection, comply with parking, etc. But those properties would be removed from a cap. It was acknowledged through the program ordinance update amendment process that this area specifically identified in the order before you today, that it has been more transient and vacation rental use in nature. And in fact, the majority of the licenses of 326 licenses, of 326 licenses, 236 of those are in that exemption area. We have a wait list in Pacific City Woods currently of 28. If the board adopts the exemption area, 18 of those will come off of the list. What is proposed is a cap for the remainder of the Pacific City Woods sub-area at 95. That was the number of licenses that we had consistently in the outer areas through Pacific City through this last year. It's fluctuated again, it's dynamic. But what that sets the community at then for the other areas is, I believe, 11%. which is what it was. So with that 95, it would also give us an opportunity of the 10 that will remain on the wait list. 5 of those would be invited to apply for a license because that 95 also gives us some room to invite some folks. As Mr. Schultz said earlier, he and I have talked often this last year. That is a wait list that has not moved. The other one that has not moved is Oceanside. We've seen good movement in the rest of them, so it's working, and most of them are down to 1, 2, maybe 5 on their wait list. So those are our recommendations before you for this order today for approval, and we're happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. It's a huge body of work, and I appreciate the time that you have spent in communities talking with folks. That was, this was a big change in our short-term rental ordinance. It was well informed by more than 18 months of short-term rental advisory committee meetings. So none of this has been done as a knee-jerk reaction. And I just appreciate the continued conversations so that we were able to continue a thoughtful process. So with that, I will ask my colleagues if they have questions, comments, and concerns. Commissioner Bell.
Thank you. Well, Sarah, I want to thank you and your staff for this work also. I agree with my colleague that it's a huge body of work, and you did a great job describing it, explaining it. It's complicated, certainly. You ask for our support for you to continue working with the communities. I do support you in continuing to work with the communities. I hope that you do. I think that's really important work. And I acknowledge that some of those communities want lower caps, and I'm grateful for their continued patience to see how all of this shakes out, because it's really a work in progress, and we don't know yet what how it's going to play out. So, and I think it's a great idea to expand in Pacific City in what isn't technically a resort zone like Mr. Schultz, I think, was describing, but in effect, that's what it is. That community was built to be short-term rental. And so I think all of your decisions or your proposals are justified and well-reasoned, and I appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fournier, I know there's a lot to take in here, and I would invite you to ask any questions that you do have.
No, Sarah and I have spoken at length about this, so I'm very familiar with it, and I would echo both of your statements. I'm not going to repeat them. And I think that, I think this is a great idea, and I love the idea of the ongoing livability assessment. I think that Tillamook County is setting itself apart by doing a lot of that, being very thoughtful. I mean, we all live here, so I know how I want my neighborhood to be, so I appreciate that part. I think it's important work. And so, yeah, I agree.
Okay, and Sarah, again, thank you so much for your work. This has been just huge. And I really appreciate the communities as well. I'm going to echo my colleagues that their willingness to let us go another year to let full implementation of the new short-term rental ordinance come into play. I think it's important to follow through that use it or lose it piece. I also think it's important to follow through. What does next summer look like after the reductions in occupancy, which have occurred going through the license renewal, the reduction in on-street parking that has occurred and going through the license renewal? Because when we went through the 18-month process, the biggest concerns really were around parking. Livability related to that. So houses overstuffed with people. And I think that the ordinance addressed those things. And I will be looking forward to your presentation that's coming up, as well as a year from now hearing from our communities again to say, okay, did we get it? What pieces did we miss? What do we still need to do? So I'm just really thankful for everyone who's willing to take a breath and continue to walk with us through this journey. So thank you so much. I think we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of order number 25-002 in the matter of repealing board order number 23-054 and adopting revised cap limits on short-term rental licenses in 21 geographic sub-areas of unincorporated Tillamook County.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. And then thank you for your work. I know that there was a lot in renewing all of those licenses and chasing all that paperwork. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay. We will move on to item number 13. which is consideration of an order in the matter of the reappointment of members to the Tillamook County Housing Commission. And I have Parker Sammons listed on that. I see Sarah Absher continuing at the table, so I'm going to make a guess that it's you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm here. Might as well, just for efficiency
Thank you.
purposes, happy to be here to talk about this as well. So yes, before you is a reappointment order, and this is for Michelle Yank and Carrie Fleischer, both incredibly passionate, talented, and intelligent ladies who devote a lot of their time to the Housing Commission and helping the county address our housing crisis. Carrie is one of the original members of the Housing Commission, so she has served since we started the commission. And I believe this is Michelle's first reappointment, and these are for 4-year terms. So we would love to see them reappointed and to continue to work with them.
Thank you, Sarah. I agree. Carrie is in fact our current chair of the Housing Commission, is doing a great job for that. She really has also led the legislative committee for the last 2 years at least, and does a lot of work tracking bills for us and does an excellent job. So I appreciate her. And of course, Michelle Yank, she is so connected in the community. She also has been a leader on our outreach subcommittee. So a lot of the Facebook posts and that sort of work that you see is because Michelle Yank is there behind the scenes, making sure that we are out there very visible for the community so they can know and understand what is happening. So I appreciate them both and look forward to their reappointments. Commissioners?
I am grateful for their service and pleased that they are willing to be reappointed.
I've been to several housing commission meetings and I've seen their hard work and I appreciate it as well.
Okay, I think we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of order number 25-003 in the matter of the reappointment of members to the Tillamook County Housing Commission.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to item number 14. Consideration of change order number 1 to non-prevailing wage rate contract for construction with Versatile Networks and Communications for the network cable installation project for the assessor and clerk's office. And we have Jeff Underwood, Information Technology Operations Manager, with us. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning, Commissioners. So got this project started and Facilities has decided that they don't have the equipment or the ability to put a hole pretty much right straight across. We need to run from this closet over across to the assessor side. Requires some specialized equipment, and so our contractor has graciously agreed to do the work as long as we give them a little bit extra money so they can rent the equipment needed to do this work.
Perfect, thank you. So on the other side of this wall, if I'm not mistaken, is marble, I think, and some of that stuff. So I can imagine it's a little tricky.
Yeah, I think there's some terracotta, all kinds of fun materials.
Okay, thank you. No, I think that's a great solution. Commissioners?
I'm fully supportive.
Me too.
All right, and I would look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of change order number 1 to non-prevailing wage rate contract for construction with Versatile Networks and Communications for the network cable installation project for the assessor and clerk's office.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay. Moving on to item number 15, which is consideration of an order in the matter of the reappointment of a member to the Tillamook County Budget Committee. We have online with us Sean Blanchard, Treasurer. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Commissioners. How are you all today?
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Good. So before you is an order to reappoint MJ Basti, who was appointed last year for a 1-year term to the Budget Committee for Tillamook County. I got the impression that she really enjoyed her time on the Budget Committee and was happy to be reappointed for another term.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioners. Questions or comments?
Oh, I'm pleased that MJ is staying with us. I thought she was just added a lot to the group, and I'm grateful for her service.
I am as well.
Okay, as am I. So I would look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of order number 25-004 in the matter of the reappointment of a member to the Tillamook County Budget Committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 16, which is also with Sean. Consideration of order in the matter of the reappointment of a member to the Tillamook County Compensation Board.
So generally, when a new committee member is appointed to the Budget Committee, they're also part of the Compensation Board for elected officials. And so this is to reappoint MJ Basti to the Compensation Board for elected officials.
Perfect, thank you. Comments, Commissioners?
I'm fully supportive.
Okay, as am I. A motion, please.
Madam Chair, I move approval of order number 25-005 in the matter of the reappointment of a member to the Tillamook County Compensation Board.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, Sean, also you have the next one. Consideration of an order in the matter of the Board of County Commissioners, Tillamook County, Oregon, authorizing the sale of county general obligation bonds.
So this is coming before the board for your signature to authorize the sale of our county general obligation bonds, which were for the radio bond that passed. I will pass it to Rachel if she has any additional information on that. This is just the one of the requirements from Piper Sandler and Hawkins Delafield, who we're working with for the sale of the bonds.
I don't really have anything to add. We are proceeding with the tentative bond sale of March, April, and you've signed a contract amendment for federal engineering to keep the radio project going. So they're working on updating the RFP and hoping to have a smooth transition as we move toward the sale. Thank you.
And
Thank you for presenting, Sean.
we're looking at potentially April, second week in April of the sale of the bonds, which I'm going to work with Lauren and Rachel. It's kind of fun to watch when they actually put the bonds out for sale. Hopefully we'll have a meeting and anybody that wants to watch this year. It was really fun the last time we did the road bonds. So.
Okay, well, I'll look forward to that. I'm one of those crazy people that would love to know how does that work when they go out for sale. So, perfect. Questions, comments?
I'm supportive and I'm also interested. I had no idea that it was fun to watch when they go out for sale. So please invite us.
It was my first time, 2018 when I did that, and I don't think it ever been put out to having commissioners or anybody else that was interested in watching the sale of the bonds. So I'm looking forward to this one.
Nice. It'll be like, when you watch the stock market, right? And everybody's like waving their thing. They want one. I want one. So yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah.
Perfect. I think we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of Board Order number 25-006 in the matter of the Board of County Commissioners, Tillamook County, Oregon, authorizing the sale of county general obligation bonds.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Sean. Watch
Thank you,
party.
commissioners.
Be
Have a
looking
good day.
forward to it. Watch party.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to item 18, which is consideration of a professional services agreement with Alan Raplia for local government hearing officer services, and we have William K. Sargent, County Counsel today.
Yeah, Mr. Rapplier is a former Washington County Counsel. Last year, we contracted with him to perform these same services. Knock on wood, we didn't have one hearing. We anticipate there'll be some hearings this year because of, as Sarah was talking, the licensing of the short-term rentals is now in this phase, and there's likely going to be some appeals, and he will hear those appeals. He charges $200 an hour, which is a reasonable rate, and he not only does it for Tillamook County, he does it for a lot of other counties, so he's really a good fit. So this is a one-year contract to put him on the back burner for those appeals when they come up the line.
Perfect, thank you. Questions or comments, Commissioners?
No.
I have none.
I think I'll just comment briefly that this is currently for the short-term rental housing ordinance work, and we are looking at whether or not this appeals officer can be used for other code enforcement issues as well. So there's additional work afoot. I know there are people in the community who are waiting and hoping that we will get this complete so we're able to have a body to adjudicate those that is not the commissioners. We have
Yes, and takes a load off of our justice court, where
Correct.
we've had a lot of those commissioners scarred too. So, yeah, we're going to discuss that, I think, today at the board
I
briefing.
think that's at the board briefing this afternoon. So if you're interested, if you're listening to this and thinking, that sounds interesting, what's really happening? The board briefing at 2 p.m. We'll be talking more in detail about where else we may use the hearings officer. So, okay, with that, I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of a professional services agreement with Alan Rapolyev for local government hearing officer services.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, do we have any board concerns today?
None at this time.
I just think I did fantastic.
You did. Bravo.
Thank you, Paul. Well, we'll talk to you after the meeting.
We're
So
super
just a few little, okay, so I will go ahead and read our meetings and announcements. The commissioners will hold a board briefing on Wednesday, January 8th, 2025 at 2 p.m. to discuss weekly commissioner updates. The meeting will be held in the Board of Commissioners Meeting Room 106 at the Tillamook County Courthouse, 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook. The teleconference number is 1-971-254-3149, conference ID 866-914-607#. Oh, that's my only one. So with that, congratulations, Commissioner Fournier, on your first meeting. And we will adjourn this meeting at 10.
Executive session.
Oh, it wasn't on here. I apologize. Apparently we are going into executive session. So we will recess this meeting at 10:25 p.m. Do you want
You can go into executive session under 192-660-2H to consult with counsel about threatened or pending litigation. In fact, Joel is the one who's primarily involved with the matter that's going to be before you, and he'll sign on and take care of that when you're ready.
Okay, perfect. I don't expect that we'll make any decisions as we come out of the executive session. So we will go ahead and recess this meeting at 10:26.
Well, hilariously.
Or alternate. We're ready? Okay, we adjourned the executive session at 10:59 a.m. We will reopen the board meeting at 10:59, and we will adjourn the board meeting at 10:59.
I'm gonna bring these upstairs, so you're leaving.
Yeah, we can take them up to them.
Okay.